height of Portugal's power, Lisbon's harbor was the gateway that linked the old and new worlds. The triumphal Rua Augusta Arc opened up to Augusta Street, so named because it was a passage reserved for the royalty entering the city from the port. Today, it is a lively pedestrian street, lined with restaurants that offer a taste of traditional Portuguese cuisine.
I can't visit Lisbon or Portugal for that matter without having bacalao. And also sardines, by the way. A little bit too much for me, but I'm sure I can finish it.
Bacalao, or salted cod, is a staple in Portuguese cooking, with over 1,000 recipe variations.
I've been having bacalao with different kind of cooking. Grilled is really good.
Sardines are also very popular among the Portuguese, whose cuisine relied heavily on the bounty of the sea.
Sardines very good. Haven't had fresh sardines for a while, and this is really perfect. It's really good having it just in the cafes, watching people go by. Perfect.
Feeling like a real dom, I walked the streets parallel to Rua Augusta, Rua de Oro, or Gold Street, and Rua de Prata, or Silver Street. Some say they are named after the gold and silversmith shops that line the avenues, while some believe that sacks of gold and silver used to be dragged along these streets from the port brought on by Portugal's voyagers. 2 generations after Henry the Navigator's reign, one highly regarded voyager was at the forefront of Portugal's golden age. Vasco da Gama, who was the first to link Europe to Asia via a sea route reaching India by going around the coast of Africa. His discovery ushered in a period of global imperialism for Portugal. I climbed the steep steps to the Castle of St. George, Lisbon's historic fortification since medieval times. The fortress was a former royal residence and Lisbon's last line of security against invaders. The oldest parts of the castle date back to the 6th century. From the Romans to the Moors to the Portuguese monarchs, this castle has seen it all. It was also here that King Manuel I welcomed Vasco da Gama as a hero. Da Gama established a foothold in what is now the state of Kerala in southern India, while other Portuguese armadas conquered the shores of Galle in Sri Lanka, securing a steady supply of valued spices and precious gems. King Manuel reaped the benefits of Portugal's golden age, with the discovery of Brazil and a monopoly of trade in the Indian Ocean and Persian Gulf. He was known to have gifted exotic animals like elephants to the Pope in order to gain favor. Celebrating Vasco da Gama's safe return from India and delighting in the riches from the expeditions, King Manuel commissioned the building of a grand monastery. The St. Jerome Monastery is considered a very good example of Portuguese architecture. It is now considered a World Heritage Site. With the influx of wealth, the builders were not limited to small-scale plans. The monastery's ornate architecture, which incorporates marine motifs and oriental elements, came to be known as the Manueline style, named after the king. The Order of St. Jerome was tasked to give spiritual assistance to sailors and navigators who departed from the nearby port to distant lands. Vasco da Gama and his men spent nights here in prayer before they left for their expeditions. Only one other structure of this design survives, which can be found at the port where ships set to sail.
This is Torre de Belém. It marks the entrance to the city if you're sailing by boat. It's another example of Portuguese architecture and is considered a World Heritage Site.
Built as a lighthouse for ships and watchtower to protect the city, King Manuel went on to embellish the military structure with elaborate architectural details borrowed from all over the world. Torre de Belém was the starting point for many voyages of discovery, and for sailors, it was the last sight of home before many months at sea. Exploring Lisbon's historic quarter, it is very easy to miss the Igreja de São Roque, one of the earliest Jesuit churches in Europe. Its unassuming exterior hides one of the most exquisitely decorated churches in Lisbon. Financed by the wealth from the Portuguese colony of Brazil, it was built as Europe's most expensive church at that time. The lavish interiors reflected the church's effort to capture the attention of the faithful. All this gold would surely leave any churchgoer in awe. The interior was initially assembled by famous architects in Rome, then dismantled and shipped to Lisbon for rebuilding. Truly an extravagant construction for its time. It seemed as if there was no end to Portugal's golden age. The Portuguese Empire continued to expand, mapping the coast as far as Southeast Asia, Canada, and Brazil. But tragedy struck as 2 generations after King Manuel, the young Portuguese King Sebastian set off to extend their kingdom in North Africa against the advice of his court, never to be seen again. Leaving no heir, the Spanish King Philip, who was married to a Portuguese princess, saw an opportunity to grab the Portuguese throne. This marked the end of an era, as newcomers in overseas exploration also arrived. The British, French, and the Dutch, all competing for the control of the trade routes. One headstrong navigator, Fernando de Magallanes, got into a fight with King Manuel and fell out of favor. Because of this, he sought support in Spain and went on to discover the Philippines. Though his life ended in the Battle of Mactan, his ship was able to accomplish the first circumnavigation of the Earth, proving that the Earth was not flat. These expeditions forever changed world history as we know it, and it felt great to be walking the same streets that these great explorers once did. Up next, I get to know present-day Lisbon up close and discover its aviation heritage.